This video is about scientific experiments. Scientific experiments often require the use of test subjects. This is especially clear in scientific medicine. To test whether a treatment actually works, the subjects have to be divided into at least two groups, only one of which receives the treatment being tested. The reason for this is that the treatment group has to be compared with a control group to see if there's a difference. If there is no known treatment for the disease in question, the control group is not given any effective treatment, but they are still cared for normally. Instead of a drug that is being tested, they can be given something that looks like the drug, but actually has nothing but sugar in it. Even though they do not actually get any real treatment, they can still experience improvement in their condition. This is called the placebo effect, from the Latin word placere, to please. The group getting this treatment can be called the placebo group. Unfortunately, they can also experience negative effects, for which the term nocebo effect is used. If the treatment being tested is other than a new drug, more imaginative types of placebos have to be invented. For example, to test claims about acupuncture, fake needles have been made. The logic in the tests is still the same. It would be unethical for physicians to not treat a patient if a treatment is available, so the new treatment has to be compared to other available treatments. It is of course also possible to compare several different kinds of treatments to each other, to see which is best. A blinded study is an experiment where the test subject is blinded, in the sense that they do not know if they are getting a real treatment or a placebo. The problem with this kind of study is that even when the person receiving the treatment is not told if they are in the test group or the placebo group, the person giving the treatment knows it. This knowledge, unfortunately, can leak to the person being treated through subtle things like body language, micro-expressions, tone of voice, or something else. This is why a single blind is not really enough for this kind of study. Instead, it should be done as a double-blind study, where even the person giving the treatment doesn't know which of their patients are receiving the placebo and which get the real treatment. This is easiest to do with drugs because pills can usually be made to look indistinguishable from each other. During the test, statistical data is collected. It is then analyzed to see how the different treatments compare to each other. A triple-blind study may be used, in which case even the people doing the statistical analysis do not know which group is which, the placebo or the test group. Statistical analysis is important because the results are unlikely to be obvious, especially when dealing with an issue as complex as health. There are many factors that influence a person's health. To some extent, self-reporting of symptoms probably has to be relied on. This complicates things further. Usually, the results of the test can only be expected to show statistical changes. Some patients get better, some get worse. That is also why you cannot rely on anecdotes. A single person may have gotten better after some treatment, but perhaps for reasons unrelated to the treatment. To be able to say that the treatment actually works, it has to be at least on average significantly better than the placebo. In other words, better than nothing. For this, statistical analysis is required. Statistical analysis may be able to show a correlation between things, But it is important to not confuse that with causation. Just because two things occur in temporal proximity, even one immediately after the other, you should not assume that one is causing the other. To be able to show causation, you need an experiment where you can introduce and remove variables, so that you can show that the effect only occurs when you have introduced the variable causing the phenomenon, such as the active ingredient of a drug. I have been using medicine as an example here because it is easy to understand and relate to, but the same principles apply to other things as well. One simple thing to test that has been tested a lot is the alleged phenomenon called dowsing. Dowsers claim to be able to use a rod or some other tool to find things like water or gold. Apparently, dowsing was originally used in the late Middle Ages by miners looking for gold. Different dowsers give different explanations for their alleged ability. The explanations don't matter for the way in which the test is performed. Scientific skeptics have done numerous tests on dowsers over the previous decades. Typically, the dowser is asked to bring a trusted friend along to help in the experiment. They can then keep an eye on the testers for the dowser to reassure them that the testers are not cheating. Some such claims have been made in the past when the dowser has failed. First, the dowser is allowed to check the area being used for the test to see if their alleged ability works normally for them. Usually, the test has involved something like a series of overturned buckets to conceal what may be below. Under these buckets, or whatever, will be hidden gold rings, for example. The dowser is urged to test their ability to detect the hidden ring under the bucket. This typically works easily for the confident dowser. The rod turns over the bucket or whatever. But this only happens when the dowser knows the ring is there. In the actual test, they of course do not, because the test is performed as a double-blind study. The blinding is done so that the dowser's friend joins one of the testers in placing the rings that the dowser has already tested and found easily under the bucket the dowser has also tested, in the area the dowser has deemed fine for the testing. Other people are not allowed in the area at this point. For each bucket, a coin is tossed so that there is a 50-50 chance for a ring to be placed under it. A sheet is used to keep track of what was chosen for each bucket, and the dowser's friend signs the sheet to make sure it won't be switched. When the test begins, the dowser enters the test area with a supervisor and no one else. There has been no possibility of contact between them and the previous people in the experiment area. The dowser checks all the buckets in the series with their dowsing tools or whatever their method was, telling the supervisor where they detect the rings. Unsurprisingly, the dowsers never get even close to all right. They do no better than lucky guesses, such as tossing a coin instead of using the dowsing rod. Interestingly, they usually seem genuinely surprised at this. What seems a bit strange is that they usually keep believing in their ability, although the friend they brought with them will probably no longer agree with them on that. These tests show that the phenomenon being witnessed has nothing to do with whatever explanations the dowser has given for it, but rather it is a matter of psychology. The dowsing rods and such do seem to behave strangely, even in the hands of scientific skeptics who do not believe in dowsing. This is because of a phenomenon called the ideomotor effect, where the dowser subconsciously moves the rod. The reason for stubbornly holding on to the belief in one's dowsing power is partly due to the power of this effect and partly due to the sunk cost fallacy. The dowsers often having a heavily vested interest in the matter, even their reputation as a professional dowser in many cases. Importantly though, scientific skeptics agree that dowsers are almost always honest believers, not hoaxers. They are not lying, they are just wrong. In the next video, I will talk about the theories and progress in science. See you then.